There's a lot of talk in the martial arts community about kata and where it fits and what its value is and if it even has any. And, well, I decided to get rid of it. Hey, what's up? I'm Ken. This is kenfuTV, and each week release videos in the martial arts, philosophy, technique, training, that sort of thing. And if that's the kind of thing you're into, I hope that you stick around. I hope you subscribe and hit the bell so you know when new videos come out, and comment and share this video to people that you think might like it. Last week, I started a new segment on patches and t-shirts. I talked about it in last week's episode about why I'm doing it, but a quick recap, I thought it would be fun. I enjoy wearing shirts from different places, and especially when they're gifts and things like that, as well as I thought it would be fun to feature patches and kind of as a way to kind of spice up the studio space. So last week I went over a couple of my first patch from Seo Shorin-ryu and a patch from Chris Hansen over at Karate Unity. This week is a very special patch, at least special to me in that it is the Okinawan Karate-do Kabuto patch, which is one that I developed. And this patch was developed when I was in the process of taking over the dojo that I train in now. We were kind of shifting the things that we were doing. We were kind of looking at the arrangement of everything. And so myself, my instructor, other instructors, we all got together and we talked and kind of established the direction that we wanted to go. And we went, as you notice, we went the direction of going pretty generic. Okinawan Karate-do Kabuto. No style names, no things like that, because we wanted to put the emphasis on the fact that we do karate, not divide ourselves into separate things and try to pull ourselves away from everybody. Chris Hansen would be proud. Years ago, we were following the Karate Unity path in our own space, which is probably part of why I like what he's doing so much. Funakoshi would probably also be proud, since there was a whole thing about him not liking that his style was called Shotokan, and that people were calling it that because that implied a distinction, a separation, an isolation of what he does from other people, which implies a separation, implies this breaking, and we see it happen all over the place. People try to define these things, and then we move further away. Instead of just doing karate, we do karate. We're a karate family. You know, we all train together, and we should unite that way. The patch itself has the Hirari Goman to represent the fact that it's an Okinawan system. On the patch, we've got things like Budo and Seo Shorin-ryu and different kanji to represent the things that make up what we do, as well as the Enzo symbol, something that I'm personally really fond of because of its connection to representing strength and clarity and the no mind scenario, the Mushin scenario, which is a really valuable space to be in as a martial artist. So that's it. That's the patch. That's the one that currently represents the school that I teach out of, the school that I run. Doesn't have my name on it. It's not Kenfu, it's not something. We come together and we do karate. Put that. So if you want to send over a patch, then you can do that to shirts and patches at kenfu.tv, and I'll get you an address where you can send one over, and I hope that you send it with a story so that I can tell your story a little bit and feature it on the channel and make it part of this set. Today's t-shirt is from Sajido Academy, a martial arts school out of Georgia. This shirt was given to me by a really good friend of mine, Joel Rice, who I met a number of years ago, and we've become very, very close friends. And we trained together. In fact, that's how I met. He darkened the door at the school and started training with us, him and his wife. And so we've had such an awesome opportunity to continue to train. Well, Sajido was the school that he trained in before he moved to Wyoming and before he trained with me. And so when he was there this last time, he was visiting Master Sam, somebody really important to him, and he picked up this shirt and he brought it back to give to me as a gift. And I really appreciate it. I wear it often. I wear it fondly as a way to remember and appreciate the relationship that I've been able to gain with this person, who part of this person is made up because of Sajido's impact in his life. So if you're in Georgia or visiting, then make sure to go ahead and stop by Sajido Academy, visit Master Sam's, let him know Ken and Joel are the reason why you know about this place, and get on the mat a little bit. I think you'll enjoy it. Today's topic, kata, and why I have hacked kata out. We'll start with where I came from. When the style that I did had over 24 empty hand katas, which is quite a few. And then amongst that also additionally another, 20, 30 weapons katas from Yamaniru. And then because of my connection with my instructor, I also learned katas from his Okinawa Kempo, which was his art before doing Seiya Shorin-ryu, as well as we also have a connection to Mariyoshi Kobudo and all of those katas. And so all told, between that and a couple other things, I have over 100 katas under my belt. That's not bragging. It's not humble bragging. It's the reason for this video. 100 is a lot. 20 is a lot. And I think it's really easy, especially if you don't attach what you do to the function of it and the value that the martial arts has beyond kata, then it can be really easy to just collect kata. It becomes the marker, right? When I know this kata, I move to the next kata. And then as soon as I know this kata, I move to the next kata. If I'm not moving to the next kata, then I'm not growing. Now that is a problem. It's very much an issue. If you're constantly just striving for the next kata, you're probably not spending any time on the one you just finished learning. You focused on learning it enough to just move on, which is not the right answer. And how much time are you actually putting into studying and training and becoming better at the bunkai, the application, the reason why you're doing the kata to begin with? Now, I was very fortunate that my instructor, right from the very beginning, attached application to kata. They were taught together. There was a bit of a 3K background altogether from that in his history, but he was working to correct that and had tying that application to the kata. Sparring was still something that was kind of separate. The kumite was still a little bit separate from applying the kata, but it still happened, and we still worked drills and things that allowed us to work that function. And we continue to improve that. Him and I were just having a discussion this last week, and we're continuing to improve how we can offer that as we train. So when it came time for me to test for my Shodan, part of the requirements for that was kata, as it often is. And in the system we had 4 taikyoku katas, 5 pinan katas, 3 nahachi katas, and then you had to know, I think, at least 4 more empty hand katas, as well as be certified in a couple of different weapons, or at least have, if you weren't certified in a couple of different weapons, then you had to have a certain number of weapons katas, which is quite a few, in order to meet the requirements for Shodan. There was so many, it was a lot. And as I progressed into further down ranks, then there were other kata requirements for those down ranks, right? So many katas. Now, to their credit, we had to also know application from each of those katas. You didn't just perform the kata, you had to also show and demonstrate application. You had to spar, you had to do all of this stuff. So what's my problem? Why don't I like this? You've heard me talk about kata and what I think of its value is when it comes to encapsulating an entire fighting system, and that's what I believe. I believe, and there's historical evidence to back up the fact that a kata, an individual kata, is an entire fighting system. Very often katas are named after the person whose fighting style is represented by them. And they were either developed by that person, the kata themselves was developed by that person, or the kata was developed by a student of theirs as a way to record the fighting method. Sometimes something that they did on their own, sometimes something that the instructor would request them to do. Either way, kata became to exist to represent the principles and the fighting methods that were of that person. You do have things like series, like the Pinan series, where it was broken down intentionally, and I kind of consider those a complete kata and a complete fighting system, and they do have value. A lot of people want to take the value out because it was taught in schools, but there is value, and there's absolutely functional application in there. They just were broken down and fed separately to have that building method that a school uses. And so while there are 5 of those represent one fighting system, so I consider them a singular kata. Problem is, fast forward to now, where I have all of these kata, some of them that I do fairly often, some of them I do sometimes, some of them I hardly do at all, some of them that fit me really well, and some of them that don't fit me hardly at all. So very quickly they become rusty, or maybe I haven't dug deep into them, or I know basic application for the whole thing, but I really haven't had a chance to draw out or pull out the principles that are embedded into them. And that's one of the most critical things. So now I have to include the fact that I lied to you and I led you on a little bit. I didn't get rid of kata. What I did is I drastically reduced it. I cut out a considerable amount of kata. So it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, because I want students to be functional. I want them to not be collectors of technique, collectors of kata, but instead people who determine how they work and become functional martial artists who build on their skills and their abilities based on that and who they are and how they move and everything about them. So what I've done, and I'll just kind of give you a peek into part of my curriculum, and what I've done is I've taken, in our system, always started with the Pinan katas and then moved into the Nahachis. And I know some move that backwards, some have katas before that. There's all kinds of different ways. But ours was Pinan and then Nahachi. And the Pinans have stayed. That's a great place to get somebody started and to even just expose them to the idea of functional, practical karate and what karate is all about. As you get into Nahachi, you get into some of my all-time favorite katas. And if you get that far, then you've gotten one of my favorite things. And even if you never go any further, you have an absolutely dynamite set of kata with the Pinans. And you have my favorite of the Nahachis. And then it stops, or it almost stops. This is where you would get into what was termed the advanced katas, and the link to video on that and why I think advanced is the wrong word. And I've kind of already described that a little bit in this video. But instead of moving on into that, at that point, I take time to reflect on the student, the individual. And I've had a chance to watch them grow, watch how they fight, how they move, how their body is built, and what makes the most sense for them as a fighting method. And then I choose one kata for them. That kata is the kata that they get to learn going forward, that they get to dig deep in instead of collecting and learning that one and then another one, another one, another one. Instead, they'll learn this one and they'll dig deep in it, and they will entrench themselves into the teachings of this particular method of fighting. Hopefully one that matches how they fight. That's the commitment that I make in choosing this for them, is to help establish that connection to who they are and how this kata performs. Benefit for me, because I have so many, I can do that. I can give each one of them something different, so as they continue to grow and express themselves, they do so uniquely. Consequently, they will become better at these katas than me. Having to know as many as I did and having to train those and just slicing the pie, right? I have this amount of time and slices are taken out for each of them. And they'll have one. They'll have one to spend time on. And so they will know it better than me. They will have spent more time developing their body to move that way, to apply the kata, to understand the kata. They will have it so much deeper than I probably ever will. I'll get to benefit from working with them and exposing them to it, and then watching them grow and pull out things that maybe I haven't seen before, and to come to understand it in a way that I haven't myself. And so I think it's going to be incredible. But now they will know these better. So that's not to say that they'll never get to learn another kata. In fact, the way that I've kind of built it in is that there's a period of time, a minimum of a year, that they don't touch any other kata. That's the kata that they do, that they spend solid amounts of time. And I think that when they do that, they'll realize that even more time will be valuable to spend that way. But then if they want to come to know another kata, or they want to spend time, and it's important because sometimes when you visit over here, you learn more about what was over here from perspective, right? Climb this mountain to see that mountain better, that whole analogy. So they'll have the opportunity to learn another kata after that, but what they'll do is they'll go to the student who possesses that kata. They'll go to that student instead of me. This will be the last one that I teach them. If they want to learn another one, they'll learn it from the student who has dedicated time to that particular kata and spend time getting it from them. Because, like I said, they'll know it better. Now, the similar requirements. They can't go get a kata from somebody else who also has not spent at least a year learning it. They need to make sure that they dedicate time to it. It gets really easy to go and just get back into that collection phase, which is the wrong idea. So I've implied some restrictions to help establish the importance, and there's a lot of discussion about why it's important to spend that time getting familiar with their kata and becoming a better fighter, a better functional, practical martial artist, rather than just collecting a bunch of kata. So that's it. That's my approach. That's what I'm doing to change and hopefully build what I believe is going to be a better reflection of the martial arts and a better method of training into the students. They're going to have less time spent on kata as a whole and more time spent dedicated to becoming functional. And that sounds like a recap, but really what it is for me to have to know so many kata, you could spend all day reviewing, okay, if I do every kata once, well, I could spend the entire class session just going through my kata and then not have done anything else. Not have sparred, not have worked application, not have done any of that stuff. And I don't want it to be that way. I want them to apply the art. And the kata that can be the thing that they take home and they practice and they use that to reflect their art and to solo drill their art. And then when they have opportunities to work with people, that's what they should be doing. They should be training with partners and working, because martial arts are lonely arts. 90% of your training is done alone. So that 10% should be spent working with each other, but you should also realize that 10% is so small. That just shows the scope of how much time you should spend on your own building your training. That's what I got. That's what my curriculum is starting to look like right now. And it's still shaping out, and I'm still establishing how I'm doing that. I've pretty much established how I plan on doing it for Kobudo as well, but that's outside of the scope of this video. So hit the comments if that's something that you want to know more about as well. In the meantime, hit the comments anyway, just to talk about how you feel about kata and how you feel about this change to my curriculum. If you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, if you've got suggestions or recommendations or things that you've seen that you like, I'd love to hear them. In the meantime, we'll jump over to FutureCan and have a conversation about last week's video. Okay, let's check into the comments of last week's video on your training being comfortable and the difference between training for comfort and training to manage discomfort. We'll start off with one of my favorite people, Les Bobka. He says, on the subject of comfort, our brains are tuned to search for it and hold onto it. That's part of our success as species, and in the same time, our downfall, examples, obesity and the lack of fitness. In martial arts, initially we are challenged, and then we get less and less. The more able we become, the less things are challenging. Then it's up to the individual to seek challenges outside of our environment. Hence, cross-training is such a wonderful thing, giving us the right stimulus and satisfaction. Hope you are well, and I hope you are well, Les. And meanwhile, him and I have got a cool idea that we want to run by, so be on the lookout. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't, so that you know when that video comes out, because it's going to be awesome. Man, and isn't that true? As we continue to train, we are challenged less. And it's up to us to challenge ourselves. And that's one of the hardest things about making it further into the martial art, because the people who aren't willing to challenge themselves are usually the people who fall off and just maybe quit coming at some point. So it's really important that you have the ability to continue to challenge yourself. And sometimes that means looking outside of your art for other inspirations. And sometimes it means digging deeper into your art for similar but different inspirations. All right, Stuart James Gray says, physical and mental comfort. I try to put my students in a position of discomfort in both of those areas, always pushing that comfort zone. That way, what was uncomfortable last month or last year is comfortable now. Man, I love that. I love this idea that it's that explanation. I saw something here just recently on if you take your fingers and you interlace them and you're like, it feels pretty comfortable. But if I take my fingers and I go one off, it doesn't feel comfortable. But if I continue to do that and continue to do that and continue to do that, then eventually this is comfortable. And then I can move to this, and maybe this becomes uncomfortable until it is comfortable. And then each of these things maybe doesn't feel weird anymore. And that's what we do in the dojo, right? We continue to operate, continue to function until we get the ability to build up a comfort with many things, which I think is fantastic, which I think is absolutely incredible. We need it. He goes on to say, true story. The first time that I ever got punched in the face at the dojo while sparring my sensei was the best thing that ever happened to me martially. Kind of like when new car owners get that first scratch in their car. Oh, it's the worst. It removed all the fear and apprehensions that I had that was keeping me from opening up and letting my best karate out. After that, I was comfortable in front of people and no longer shy or afraid of getting hit. That's an important step, and we hope we can skip it when it comes to the getting scratches on our car and our phone and all that kind of stuff part, but sometimes you just gotta get punched in the face. As Johnny Lawrence says, Aisha unflinched this group. Little Giant Robo says, a karate dojo is probably one of the safest places to be uncomfortable, unless that dojo is run by John Kreese. Loving all the Cobra Kai references now. There are not a lot of places that are safe to push yourself out of your comfort zone, try new things, and try to exceed your old limits. Even in school, you have mixed results. In grade school, teachers could easily reward you with good grades for trying to break new ground for yourself and do something unusual. In contrast, in college, the few times I had the freedom to research and write about whatever I wanted, I really tried to learn something completely new, and I ended up with worse grades than I was used to. This, at least, has been my experience. Yeah, isn't that funny? Different areas and different things where we are encouraged or discouraged to branch out and explore. And I completely agree. The dojo is the best place. In fact, that's one of my favorite things about it. It's the best place to fail and to continue to grow and challenge yourself in a way that you might not succeed, and then keep going until you become comfortable again. Salvatore says, I see this also like Chris Hansen. Train with tranquility and confidence in the dojo, but put yourself in new situations with sparring, cross-training, and uncompliant sparring partner. It is important, according to my humble opinion, to achieve new stadium of progression with progressive resistance, climb step by step outside of the comfort zone without falling in the trap of hurting yourself and your sparring partner, maybe too hard. It's important for every martial artist to have in mind that your progression is mostly connected with your mate, your sparring partner. He or she should trust you. Man, dropping the truth bombs today. It's absolutely true. We don't grow without our partners, and it's something that we have to encourage our students to do, to be that good partner. We have to encourage our partners to be that good partner, because without them, our training is limited to what they're willing to give us. If they are compliant and they are non-resistant, then our training is compliant and non-resistant. And if they are absolutely resistant and zero compliance, then that's difficult too. It could be really, really overwhelming, really demoralizing. So somebody who can build with you, who you can train, and you can, as you continue to train with them, that they're able to just ratchet up little by little as you need. As you continue to get better, then they ratchet up a little more and ratchet up a little more, and then you provide that to them. It's the best thing you can get. It's so awesome. Visible Sensei says, damn it, how did you know I needed to hear this? Because I needed to hear it. And you and I, all the time, are on the same wavelength on this stuff, needing to hear this stuff at the same time. It's funny, him and I have the same approach to a lot of things in our podcast. If you're not checking out Invisible Sensei podcast, you should, because him and I both started out making our respective podcasts for us, making the things that we wanted to hear. For me, it was I ran out of the Ian Abernathy podcast, and I really liked that, and I was coming down off of having 10 years of his to listen to having nothing, and I went, man, I found a couple good ones, but instead I decided maybe now's the time for me to start making something that I would like to hear. And so far it seems like you guys like to hear it too, and I appreciate that. Akira Fury says, short comment this time, balance. Balance in all of life. Also Cobra Kai reference? I love it. Balance, it's so important. So important. And so short comments sometimes say everything that needs to be said. MG says, this video makes me want to do elastic band exercises. The 80s are calling. Throw on your sweat socks and let's get this done. Karate Unity says, training out of the comfort zone is so key to growth. This really is the only way to grow. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable is key. So get out there, attend different seminars, spar with different people, get out there and meet other people, unite, share your craft, and be open to collaboration and criticism, as this all shapes your craft and helps you grow. Absolutely. Bonus advisement. If you're new to the martial arts, sometimes getting into that stuff too soon can be too much. And you really do want to, like, I kind of want to have the disclaimer that says what he's saying is absolutely true as a black belt martial artist, a person who's dedicated a lot of time to it. When you're new, it can be really hard to gain traction, the direction you're trying to go. If you spread yourself too thin, spread yourself all over the place, especially if you're doing a lot of things that conflict with each other, it can be really hard to make progress. And if you don't make that progress, then sometimes it can be very likely to make you want to quit, make you not want to drive forward anymore, and then you never get to make all that growth. And so if you've been doing this forever, jump into it, get it done. If you're new, do so with a measure of caution so that you don't pull yourself away too far and end up getting frustrated and quit too soon, because the martial arts needs you. You need the martial arts. Get in there and drive and have a long life of it. Hyper Karate says, I agree 100%. Be gradually and regularly out of the comfort zone. Anything's in patches, so be looking for those. Man, again, and I love you guys' comments because you guys have a way of saying exactly what needs to be said, which is be gradually. Like we said, it's got to be able to ratchet up. And regularly. It's not, don't just test yourself sometimes. You need to test yourself on an ongoing basis. And it needs to continue to ratchet up. So Renato, I think you nailed it. And if you guys aren't checking out Renato's channel, his Hyper Karate channel, look, I think it's just getting started, is looking awesome. And you should definitely give it a look. That's it right now. Let's jump back to the past and finish today's video. I really love these comment sections. I really enjoy that you do this. So please keep leaving comments so that we can keep having these conversations and continue to do this. And don't forget to shoot an email over to shirtsandpatches@kenfu.tv to get a mailing address to send over a patch or a shirt and a story that I can feature on this channel and add to the studio. If you like these videos and you like what I'm doing and you want to subscribe, you can do that right here. And I hope you do, because it really does help the channel out. Here's a playlist of videos like this one right here and a couple videos that I think you might like. I'm Ken. This is kenfuTV, and I'll catch you in the next one.